Hi Venkat, thanks for joining the call today. So today, as I have already mentioned, today we are going to discuss about your experience in building your own team with the Klipit.
Uh,
So I'll just start ahead with asking a few of the questions related to that. So as a start, I
Sure.
would like to ask about your background and experience. So what can you share a bit about your background and what led you to start Klipit?
Okay. Well, my background is as most people would have. Right after college, I started off working at a call center in India. I mean, that's typically what everybody was doing, I think, 2000. I've worked with customer service profiles. I've worked as telesales. Finally, I joined a credit fraud and loss department with Dell Computers. Spent about a good 4 years with them. Came to Dubai on a vacation, loved the city, went for an interview, got a job, went back to Delhi and said, I'm quitting. So that's how Dubai happened. And Dubai, I came in sometime around 2006. And since then, Dubai has been home. Dubai has given everything that I have today. It gave me the opportunity of working with retail, with distribution, represented companies at various forums. And over the period of time, I realized that being an employee is great, but being an employer is even more challenging and very exciting. And an opportunity to quit early. I mean, from a retirement point of view. So that's how the entire journey of wanting to be an entrepreneur started off. I did a couple of quick ventures on in e-commerce. Um, Pretty good to what we were doing at that point in time. And then with Amazon coming into the market, we turned around and said, okay, let's take a back foot now rather than just burning monies, because e-commerce was about burning a lot of money those days. Um, 2016 came with a new idea, uh, started building it, understood the tech part of it. And 2022 is when we started working on the idea. So that's where Klipit, which is my current entrepreneurship journey is going on. That's how we kind of built this entire platform.
Great. So, if you can say what experiences, both personal or professional, which has been influential in shaping your approach for building your initial team.
So I think one thing that I've had a good and a bad share is of bosses that I've worked with. I've had a couple of bosses who were very aggressive, who understood the need of doing things the right time. Um, so that kind of, always kept me into the loop, saying that this is what I would want to do at some point in time, even though I was allowed to call shots within the same space that I was working in, or the department that I used to manage. I was able to kind of call the shots. But then I kind of moved into companies where I feel the bosses were not doing what they were supposed to do. And that frustration got me into starting something on my own. So that's how the entire entrepreneur journey kind of began, is because um, uh, I probably come from a background where I love daydreaming, and daydreaming of concepts which could be better, processes which could be better, all of that. And that's how the entire entrepreneurship journey kind of seeped in. So yeah, good
Yeah,
bosses, good bosses, bad bosses. That's the experience.
yeah. Okay. So, talking about the initial steps in building your team, how did you assemble your initial team? Or what were you especially looking, the key qualities that you were looking for in your early team members?
See, being a startup, I think one of the key aspects is getting someone who is as passionate as you are. Is because it's not about the number of hours we spend in the office, but it's the number of quality hours that you actually do what you're supposed to do, right? So, to begin with, I wanted to get key people who I knew from my past. So, we were not looking at hiring anyone per se, but because I had interacted with many people at different intervals and some were friends by then, so we got them on board, is because I knew how passionate and how good they are with the work. Followed by later is when we started looking at skill sets, the ability people have, and the kind of platforms they have worked with in the past. Um, Gone are the days where we were hiring people because of how presentable they
Yes.
were in an interview, and how articulate they have been. But I think now we've come down to a position where we really dig down and say if these guys have really worked in that particular space or not. If they have, then that kind of gives us the edge to hire them.
Great, that's great. So now I wanted to talk about the challenges and the solution that you have found for these challenges. Like when you were building your initial team, what was your biggest challenge that you were facing, and how did you overcome this kind of such challenges from the initial team?
See, I could speak purely from a UAE point of view.
Right.
Because we are in a space of blockchain and
Mm,
we are around the entire SaaS sort of a module, getting people who work in a blockchain module plus around the SaaS space becomes very, very difficult, which automatically means that the resources who are available in the market are very, very expensive.
mm,
And being a startup, we will have to be very, very uh, careful, and we have to be very sparing as to how we are spending our budgets, right? So, first and foremost was finding the right resource and also convincing them that, hey, you know what, that we are a startup and we have a very strong product that we are building. So, introducing them to the opportunity the brand has with them and us performing together, and how they're able to kind of see the growth of the brand. And that would be also a retirement plan for them at a very young age. So drawing that entire image, or drawing that entire story for them to understand where we come from and where we want to go was a challenging aspect, right? So it was purely meeting the expectation and then also showing them the vision was very, very difficult, is because half the time since post COVID, half the time people are not very, especially people who have a very or a medium or a very strong career base,
mm.
are very, very comfortable not coming onto a startup.
Right.
It was very different in the 2015 2016 days. Everybody wanted to go to a startup is because they knew money would come in, right? But then
Right.
that was again a very interesting phase for us, where managing budgets, setting expectations right, showing them the journey, and also pitching the entire how established we are as a startup per se.
Wow. That's interesting thoughts. Now I just wanted to talk about the company culture. How important is company culture in building a successful startup team? And if you can describe the culture that you have fostered in your startup, and how do you how did that contribute to the success of the team?
Okay,
If you
see,
could say, yeah.
startup as a culture, to what I have seen in earlier startups, or rather the startups pre-COVID,
Yeah.
they were very, very chilled out, right? So
Mm,
the environment would be not exactly a very formal environment, but it was always used to be a recreational kind of an environment. People were
right.
able to do huddles, and they had something called as a breakout lounge, all of that. Open plan layouts in office, all of this. This is something
Right.
that we've kind of seen startups coming with this sort of a culture. And then the entire atmosphere, even though it's serious business, but I don't think they have any sort of restrictions on your dressing, or the
Right.
language you use on the floor and things like that, right? So with us, yes, I have been very, very vocal to my entire team, saying that I want to show their individuality within the office. So, which automatically means that we are not going to tell them that you have to wear formals, you have to wear casuals.
Okay.
It's up to them to decide what is required for that particular day. If someone has critical meetings, then they dress appropriately. If
Mm,
someone knows that today is just an admin day where I'm just going to sit and make a couple of calls, talk to a couple of people, uh, address my emails and do the remaining admin work, then you can come in your casuals, right? So this is the kind of culture we've had. Even though we have a 9 to 5 policy within the office, sorry, a 9 to 6 policy within the office, I don't tell them that you have to sit in the office for so many hours. So building that, I think, within the core team and then the extended team would kind of make it easy. We have to be flexible with the working hours, because there are days where they probably work a couple of hours more. There are days that they're probably just not very productive per se, right? So that's one thing that we have. We have an open culture. I always tell my team, and we do this on a regular basis, where I have individual coffees and lunches with my team members, just understanding and seeing, are they happy? Are they even motivated to come to the office when they get up? Is because that's important to us. If a person is not motivated and hasn't been asked, they would not be able to really do what they can do to the best, right? So that's another culture that we have, where we tell everybody that it's an open mic. You can actually walk into anybody's office and have a conversation about things they are doing, which is probably not effective, if there are effective ways to do that. So we do that as a culture per se. So yeah, that's typically what we do. We're a very hybrid version of an established organization and a startup. So we have a combination of both. We've taken the best of both worlds.
Amazing. So, as a founder, have you received any feedback of this form of culture that you have inbuilt within the organization, like from your employees or from HR or other team members?
So we've had a couple of instances where, like I was telling you, right? We don't really enforce that a person has to do a 9 to 6 job. So if anybody has anything personal, they could just drop an email and walk out. So they don't need to wait for approvals from the direct manager, from me, or from the HR. What we've observed is, and it's a human nature, right? So there are some people who understand what is the slab of doing things in a professional manner, and then there are some people who kind of overstep into the entire zone. So we've had course correction that we've done, and we've had conversation with people saying that, hey, you know what? Yes, we do have a culture where you can decide if you need to leave an hour early, or if you want to stay back for an extra hour, whatever it is, right? So we let them do that. But when it's overdone, that's when the HR has a conversation with me, and then we have a one-on-one conversation with the employee and say, hey, you know what? We are not the kind of people we want to question this, but it's a little too much, right? So that is something that we've already done course correction with. My HR team also came with ideas that large corporations like Dell and Microsoft do, where they take employee feedback. So these are done in a very anonymous manner. So every employee has the opportunity of going onto a platform like a SurveyMonkey, and then put down details in an anonymous fashion. So we know that from an employee, from an overall company point of view, we get to know if we are doing the right things in terms of the pay scale per se, or the working culture per se, or even in terms of product growth per se, right? So we give them the opportunity to come in, give their feedback anonymously. If anybody wants to give feedback openly, they can always work with us. So these are things that we've done. We've done course corrections in a few of these matters.
Perfect. So now I just wanted to touch base on the skills versus fit for the employees. Like, so while you're hiring, especially being in a startup phase, how do you balance the specific skill sets with the overall fit in the team, overall fit within the team? Because as you mentioned, this is like a very niche profiles required, which is the core business activity that you're doing, especially with the blockchain skill sets that people possess, but it has to fit within the overall culture of the organization. So how do you manage that?
So there are two aspects that we look at. Skill sets is what the HR kind of identifies and says, you know what, this person kind of fits into our requirement per se, in terms of the background that he's worked in, the educational background. past experiences, all of that, right? So that's the first level of validation that the HR identifies, and then when we have a round of interviews with potential candidates, we clearly tell them that we will have from the beginning round with the HR, there would be about 3 to 4 rounds. What we normally do is the second round is where I would have the direct manager that he or she would be reporting to. So they do an interview round. What we also do is at the same time, we give them a case study based on what survey we've done about our product. We give them a case study and we ask them to present their opinion on that particular product or what they would be doing when they come into that particular role, depending on what kind of role it is. If it's a tech role, we give them a project where they have to execute and show us the project. This is purely in the lines of coding or UI UX ideas, all of that. When it's anybody in sales and marketing, we ask them to give a presentation in terms of the kind of roadmap they have for themselves within the organization and how they can contribute to the organization. So this purely comes in from a combination of their skills and their educational background and how good they are. Fit is a combination of an individual as well as an individual's work within a team. So initially, we've burnt our fingers on this. Initially, we had people who were on probation only for 3 months, and with us understanding that they're good, bad, or ugly, and then we would kind of give them a confirmation, right? What we are doing now is we're giving people 6 months probation, is because we realize that you could be great as an asset, but you're great as an independent asset, but for some reason you don't really fit into the work culture or the team culture. So that kind of creates a lot of bad friction within the organization, and we don't need that, especially when we are at a growing stage, right? So that is how we've kind of turned around and said, what we do is, from a fit point of view, I personally have regular conversations with whoever joins in. I have at least once every 15-day conversation with them in terms of is the entire culture as per the expectation? Is there a cultural shock that we could kind of help them understand and navigate through their entire part? There are certain things that we could do from a training point of view, from a conversation point of view, but you do have a few sour grapes in a bunch of grapes. So that is how we identify that one doesn't fit into the organization, and then we let go of them. Again, after doing various processes of either a training or retraining or regular sessions with them to understand and see and help them understand the team and whatnot. So yeah, that's how we kind of switch between the entire skills and fit.
Great. So now I want to touch a bit upon your leadership and the management style. So from your personal standpoint, how would you describe your leadership and management style looks like? And over the period of time for the past 1.5 years right now, how has your style evolved as the team grows? Like from a small team member, now it's growing to, I believe, 10 to 15 member team member. So how has it evolved from a leadership standpoint?
So first, let me talk about the kind of leadership culture that we have. I'm not the only partner in the business. I do have other partners who have other business interests which they run. With Klipit, the way we operate is I solely manage the operations at Klipit. And I have other shareholders who are shareholders and who only come in for strategic conversations and strategic events. So they don't involve themselves in day-to-day operations.
Right.
So with me, I have a very simple conversation with whoever I hire. We do have a hierarchy in terms of who heads sales, who heads marketing, who heads HR. Even though they have direct reporting managers, they still have access to the top level guys. Everybody has everybody's numbers. We have communication tools like Slack, which everybody is able to kind of reach out to each other within the organization. We use things like HubSpot, which helps us from a CRM point of view. So everybody knows what's really happening within the organization at every level, right?
Okay.
So from a culture point of view, we're very open in terms of listening to people, understanding everybody's ideas, all of that. Having said that, we are still a little on the so let me put it this way. Uh, at some point in time, I had thought that motivation is the only way one can achieve success, right?
Mm.
Uh, but I think over the last year, I've realized that yes, you need to be motivated. There is no two ways about it. But along with motivation, you also need to have discipline in
Okay.
terms of what you're doing as a profile or as an organization, as an individual, right? So that has kind of come into the entire conversation now within the office, where we turn around and tell people saying that, you know what, accepted that, for a motivation point in view, you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things, but from a discipline point in view, you should also be doing certain things, right?
Mhm.
And that would lead us to success. So it is for sure a lot more difficult and an upward hill, but
Mm.
success is bound to happen if you follow this particular structure. And that's something that I have changed from a management point of view also. Whereas to initially just motivate people, and now I kind of feel that we also need to give them a couple of conversations on being disciplined.
Great. That's an uphill journey, as you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, now talking about the adapting to change and growth, like how has your approach in team building changed as the startup has grown? Like, and how do you manage the dynamics? Because with new people coming in, the dynamics definitely might change a bit here and there. So how do you manage these dynamics of a growing team?
So it's a learning process for someone like me also. We are a startup which is a little over a year and a half now. I think we're coming close to a year and a half now. Um, uh, Something's interesting is initially the kind of people that we are hiring were in their 30s and 40s.
Mm.
Now we are hiring people who are in their early 20s.
Right.
So there is a huge change of culture that kind of comes in, right? So it's a learning process for us where we are kind of working around uh, uh, language, communication within the office, having interactions with people, setting expectations right, all of that is because, truth be told, the ones in 20s are super fast. They're really
Mm.
fast in terms of learning.
Okay.
It's a generation where they want everything to be done very, very quick. I mean, this is
Mm.
typically the generation of WhatsApps, right? Like we are the
Yeah.
generation of SMS, but
Yeah.
this is a generation of WhatsApps where they
What's
want
up?
to know, okay, have you read it? Have you not read it? Why haven't you responded back? And things like that, right? So,
Yeah.
so that is something that we are kind of learning and seeing how we could get everybody within the same realm of
Mm.
on a success path. So that's something that we've kind of learned, and we are still understanding and getting into the zone. Is because even from a product point of view, our product is for the new age consumer per se, right? So that also kind of tells us that we'll have to kind of customize and rework on our drawing board in terms of our design language or in terms of the communication that we want to have on the platform. So the employees have helped us uh, understand and change even our product per se. So yeah, it's a learning curve.
Great. So now I just wanted to touch one of the most important topic about diversity and inclusion. So how do you ensure the diversity and inclusion within your team building process? Like, do you have any examples where this diversity has helped to brought additional added values to your business or your projects?
So the advantage of being in UAE is you can easily get many nationalities for one particular profile. It
Right.
is it's a little easier from a a different national point of view as an employee base, right? But what we've taken consciously as a decision in India is to see that we have a almost equal ratio of men and women working with us. Um, uh, it is easier in India where we could turn around and say, hey, you know what, let's find developers who are men and women, and very similarly also with designers and UI UX profiles, uh, business development profiles, all of that. In UAE, from a gender equality point of view, is still difficult, is because the men are more in the market. But how we've turned around is keeping in mind that we want to be a global platform. So we have a combination of Arabic speaking people. We're hiring a person who is Iranian. We also have a couple of people who are Russian speaking. So we have a combination of a few of these employees. And we also have agencies that we've kind of identified that we work with. Again, even with the agencies, we've also kind of looked at saying that can we have someone who has global presence, is because automatically then the teams that we are working with are of different age groups, are from different diversities. So it kind of adds more value to the end product that we have. So that's the little bit that we've done. But again, being a startup, we've not really put this as our core in terms of having a diverse group. But yes, that would be something that we would kind of look at and probably do justice to it in the next couple of years.
All right, great. So, talking about retaining the talent, like what strategies have you used to retain your talent within the startup? Because the in a startup, it's more rather than being organized or very much structured. It's more about having the right key people in the key positions, and they have a huge role in building the product. So, what strategies have you used to retain the talent, and how do you handle the turnover and departure of key members if someone has already departed from a key position?
So speaking the truth, from a retention point of view, it's a very interesting thought that I had in my mind, is because for us, retention is not only at the time someone has worked with us, but also at an interview level where we know that this person is really good. So
Okay.
how can we basically get them to take up the job, right?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes you have these profiles where they are the perfect match between the skill sets, and you know that they would probably fit into the team, and it's because these are profiles who are probably directly going to be working with me. So the combination of what we do is we let them know that they would also be entitled for employee shared options. That's a
Okay.
very startup thing where ESOPs
Yeah.
is normally given at a
Right.
particular point in time when a company achieves certain targets. So we set the expectation right, clearly saying that at some point in time we would give out ESOPs and they would be entitled to get ESOPs. That's one way of retaining that particular talent to continue or to kind of take up the job with us. That's one. The second part is while we offer salary structures to people, we kind of break it down what is during the probation period and what is post probation. So if we feel that, and we've had the scenarios where we've realized that the talent was really, really good within certain departments. So what we had done is, even though the probation was in 6 months, we kind of gave them a confirmation within 3 months, and then they were given what was committed to them post probation at the 3rd month itself. So it's because we realized that these talents need to be recognized and they need to be given what the due is, right? So we do that. And again, what we also do is we allow people to work on cross-department works. So for example, if I have someone in administrative who says that, hey, you know what, I also want to understand how sales works. I also want to understand and see how sales coordination works. So what we do is we get them connected to the respective department heads, and then we give them out a couple of project-based tasks to see if that is something that they really enjoy. And if they do, and if they fit into that particular role that we have, we move them. So that again helps in ensuring that your employee who's really good stays with you and does not feel stagnant because he's doing the same sort of a job all the time. Just a classic example, our office boy, who initially was hired for, taking care of the office and giving us coffee, tea, and whatnot. Today, apart from that, he also is doing lead enhancement. So he basically has been given a PC. He's been trained how to generate leads. He helps with the database of the leads, identifies the companies and various things. So we wanted that to work with everyone, is because even at some point in time, he should not feel that, the company is growing, I'm not growing with the company, right? So that's one interesting way where if you're able to nurture your employees in doing various things and growing with the organization, that itself will make them stay back and retain.
Great. So finally, the last topic which I wanted to discuss is for the advice you want to give for the aspiring entrepreneurs. Like, what advice would you give for aspiring entrepreneurs to build a winning team?
Oh, wow. But based on what I'm going through, I would say do a lot of research work, not just on the product, but also understanding at what cost talent would come to manage your products. Is because that I think should be accurately budgeted, is because if you want your product to be successful, it's not just the product but the people behind it. So you should have enough funding to take care of them, and also give them the right kind of infrastructure, is because if you're not able to give them the tools and the resources to perform, they would not be able to perform. So first and foremost, like I said, have the right budgets, give them the right infrastructure, and hire them the right time. Not too early, not too late, but the right time.
Right. So, touching along those lines, if I may ask, is there anything that you would have changed in the way you have built the team, looking back for the past 1.5 years, based on what you have had so far? Like, is there something that you would have changed if you had an opportunity?
Like I was telling you, 3 parts of hiring, setting the right expectations or giving the advice to the startup owners. The third part, hiring the people the right time. So I hired a couple of people a little late, and I hired a couple of people a little too early. So that was a learning that I had, and which is why I'm saying, hire the people the right time. So yeah, that was one thing that I would do a little different, but all is good in the startup world.
All right. Thank you so much, Venkat. It was great talking to you. It was so inspirational. I got a lot of information. And all the best for your future.
Thank you very much. Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Good day. Bye-bye.